I'm Nathan Skipper, and in this video we'll cover the Intercom Termination products that we offer, starting with the single path Intercom Termination board, or the 81129. And this training video is part of the MTI Control System Technician training class that we offer here at our facilities and online. The single path intercom board has a number of features that are common to all MTI termination boards, such as the fact that it has an I/O slot for control for the I/O card to sit on. It has the dip switches like all other termination boards, as we've discussed earlier, and it has a data loop connector which allows you to daisy chain connections from one board to the next. The unique thing about this particular intercom board is it provides some features that allow for the MTI system, MTI control system, to provide intercom functionality. This provides connection for 16 single speakers to an MTI intercom system, and it provides a single channel audio bus. What that means is this is a 1 to 16 audio bus, 1 amp to 16 audio speakers. It supports audio level detection on each line for up to 15 of the lines, depending on the functionality that you have selected for audio level. And it supports audio devices using 25-volt line input. We recommend using West Pin wire number 357 for your intercom staff stations and number 292 for paging speakers. But this depends on the distance, and your wiring should be sized based on the distance. Here are a couple of features of the board that I want to point out before we go to the wiring diagrams. There's the I/O card slot where you would put your decoder board, the addressing switches which set the 16 bits in the data loop that this board represents, the data loop termination for daisy chaining the MTI data loop to this board, the dip switches that set the audio level behavior, which we'll discuss in the next slide, the speaker bus to the digital amplifier, and then the station speakers. You've got 16 of those where the audio termination would be made along with the call-in termination. And then lastly, you have the audio level card slot. Now, I want to discuss the connection details for this particular board. One thing that I will point out is that in these videos dealing with the intercom system, I'm going to skip the wiring for the data loop itself because we've already discussed that earlier, and the principles are still the same for this board. First of all, we want to look at the staff station speaker hookup. There are 16, if you notice the 16 terminals across the bottom, that's where the intercom would connect for each staff station, and each staff station has 2 audio line inputs, and then a call-in positive and a call-in negative, or call-in common for the call-in input as well, and then lastly a shield. And if you'll remember from an earlier video on the concepts of the MTI control system, one major source of ground faults is the shield wiring, and it's important to note that you should terminate the shield here at this termination board, but you should leave it cut back and taped off at the staff station side, and this will help reduce noise on your system. Next is the speaker bus hookup. The speaker bus hookup has 2 audio lines, and this is to allow you to daisy chain from one termination board to the next. So you have audio 1 and 2, and then repeating again audio 1 and 2 for the speaker buses for this system. And then lastly the shield, which again should be connected from this point to the amp that is going to be controlling this board. Then lastly you have the audio level hookup, and for the audio level you have 2 dip switch settings. The first is AX7 and AX6. If you if you short AX7, then you are telling the board and the control system that audio level is on for this particular termination board. What that means is the last address, address 17, or the 16th bit on this termination board, will be used to indicate audio level to the system. So you notice the last address on this card, or on this board, does not have a termination point for the audio level module, and that's because that's reserved for that functionality. Then the next set of dip switches, or next set of jumpers, is the day-night setting, and if that this jumper is set, the audio level day-night AX6 is set, then the address 16 is also used to designate for day-night setting. And so what happens is if you just have single mode audio level detection, then this address is used to detect whether the audio level is on, enabled, or disabled. If you have day-night, then this address as well is used, and so you would need to only use these 14 addresses for your audio connections, and then leave these two free if you were using day-night capabilities. And then the last connection that you want to notice is the audio level card slots, and you have 15 of those, and the 81028 will terminate to each of those with this header that is located here. At the top of that board, you have two potentiometers. The first is the night adjustment setting, and if you are in single mode, then the night adjustment is used for all audio level. But if you're in day-night mode, then these two settings are used separately, and so you can set a day mode level and a night mode level for the audio level. And with this termination board and all other termination boards, you have the same dip switch settings which designate the addresses that this termination board will represent.